The economic crisis is seen by many as a strong test for Europe. Do you think the EU has succeeded in having a common and strong position at this summit?
Well, I think that the truth is that all of the orthodoxies that we've lived by have been severely challenged over the last year. But I think at significant points, Europe has come together when it's been necessary. It came together in the early stages of the banking crisis to address issues of liquidity and solvency. It came together at an important moment in December to commit to fiscal stimulus of 1.5% of GDP. And it came together again in the European Council last Friday in recognising the links between the different parts of the macroeconomic, the microeconomic, and the international economic agenda. So I don't think ever governments should give themselves an A+, and I don't think it would be right to say Europe deserves an A+ for its performance. But I think that in the face of these unprecedented times, I think European leaders have rallied, and the European Union has added value to the efforts of national governments.
What kind of results would you expect for the G20 meeting to be a real success?
Well, I think the G20 has some very specific tasks that were given to it by the Washington summit. The G20 summit in Washington tasked 4 working groups to look at issues of financial regulation, 47 different, very detailed questions of financial re-regulation and representation. So that's important. I think that there are clearly issues in the macroeconomy to do with the IMF, its organisation, but also its resources. Japan has pledged $100 billion to the IMF. The European Union pledged $100 billion on Friday. Those are significant sums of money that are preemptive so that the IMF is able to play a fuller role. I do think it's important that that trade is recognised as an important issue. This isn't the body that will decide the future of the trade round, but it needs to put a very significant emphasis on that. And I do think the fact that this is a summit that has 85% of the world's income represented there means that the voice of the developing countries, the poorer countries, will be heard. And given that the old structures gave preference to essentially the Western economies, this is an opportunity to show that there can be an inclusive multilateralism, that rather than excluding the majority of the population, actually includes them. And that's certainly what we need to do.
Yeah, but the talks about the green economy.
Yeah.
What is it about exactly?
Well, it's to say that sustainable economic growth cannot be high carbon growth, because we've got a mismatch in supply and demand for oil. If we end up back with $140 a barrel oil, half of the fiscal stimulus of US, EU and Japan will be sucked out of our economies and go back to the oil-producing economies. $800 billion will be sucked out of the EU, US and Japanese economy if we had $140 a barrel oil compared to $40 a barrel. So that is a profound reason for us all to be interested in making sure that a recovery tries to avoid that dependence or addiction to oil-based energy, heat and transport. And I think that's a pretty profound statistic, really.